Ex-MLM members and recruiters, what are your stories, red flags, and how did you manage to out of the industry? Story 1. I was a call agent for Tahitian Noni for the USA and Germany, now called Mirinda. It was horrible fielding calls near on people's $120. Monthly auto payment was due for 4 1-liter bottles of juice. I couldn't cancel their subscription on late notice without a fax with their signature at least a week in advance, unless they claimed financial hardship. Eventually I learned that I would just need to feed them what to say and then gladly cancel for them on the phone. Total scam. Only people who made money were the early people to sign up and the founders, who were multimillionaires. Story 2. I joined Primerica. I didn't see any red flags at first, but small ones started popping up. Like my team leader telling me to basically live outside my means to make people think I was doing really good and then they'd join and then I'd do really good. Or finding out all the contests ran around recruitment and not sales numbers. I left as soon as I realized, even put my name and number on the do not contact list. Blew a lot of money trying to make that work, only to realize I wasn't going to make any money without fucking my friends. Story 3. Joined a jewelry-based MLM, thinking it would be cute to sell jewelry as a side hustle in July. After I've relocated across the country, I got roped in to the be your own boss and make money while you sleep mentality. And for a while, it boosted my confidence, because I truly thought I was doing a great job running my own business. On paper, I brought in good money, about $100 per live show, which was 1 hour a week, but I had to ship out the jewelry to them, which ate about 20% of the profit. Then the money earned went back into ordering more jewelry. By September, once the glitz and excitement of it all wore off, and I realized nothing was coming back to me, my boyfriend told me the only way to earn money in the business was to add new business partners. I told him I wasn't interested in doing that, but that was part of the scheme. I was so hurt by the people who had roped me into the business, so I quit that same day. Luckily, I made it out with only like $30 lost, but I still have a ton of jewelry and packing materials taking up space in my house. Story 4. My mum was caught up in the Market America scheme. They manipulated an already vulnerable, mentally unstable woman to sink $20,000 into her business. She took her own life less than a year later. If the company has washed up celebrities as spokespeople and asks you to spend more money than you typically make in your business, you may want to reconsider your investment. Story 5. My recruiter told me she made $400 at the party I was at. I later learned she made 25% of that. I was told if I could get 2 people under me, I would make $400, $500 per month. Then I was told I needed 4 people instead of 2. Then I was $2,000 in debt with nothing to show for it. Deleted them all and changed my phone number. Story 6. Some dude tried to recruit me into buying, selling energy drinks. It was a known scam throughout school at this point, so I decided to go along with it to see where it would go. The guy's dad was a friend of mine, and my dad has a pretty well-known computer shop in town. Anyway, I go to pick up MLM man from his house to go to a meeting. This guy loads 3 cases of energy drinks, I think they were called Vima or something, into my car. I was already sketched out, and this was a liability I didn't want to encumber myself with. So I told him I had a family emergency. He got out of the car, told me to keep the approximately 85 energy drinks. The 3 cases were in my car for a few weeks, never touched them. About a month after hearing anything, one morning there were maybe 8 to 10 cases of the energy drinks stacked right outside the back door of my dad's shop. 2 out of 10 would not try to join a cult again. Story 7. I know a girl who got sucked into R1. She constantly makes videos on FB and Instagram acting like she has this perfect life, and last I heard, Her boyfriend that she claims in her husband on social media had to call her from a gas station to see if they had any cash in the house because both their credit cards were declined, and he needed gas to go to a friend's birthday party. Needless to say, he didn't go. It literally says Boss Babe on her Instagram. Story 8. I was approached at one of my jobs by someone I used to work with at my first job. This was when I was 19. He said he was a part of a really good business opportunity and he had a mentor who was teaching him all this crap. I agreed to meet with him and the mentor, and luckily for him I had no knowledge of what MLMs were at the time. I found out it was Amway and went to a few meetings. At first they were able to be flashy and confusing enough that I thought, hey, this sounds like it could work. Plus, before you actually register and join someone's downline, you don't see their aggressive recruitment tactics. Pretty quickly though, I realized things were not right. There was a big Amway event not long after I joined. So, I got a ticket quickly because they tell you that the events are insanely important, blah blah blah. The mentor of the guy who recruited me lied about the ticket, saying that it would include the hotel and 2 meals both days. Obviously neither of those things were true. Plus, while we were at the event, the mentor tried to get me and the 3 other guys. I split one room with 2, pay for part of his brother and his brother's girlfriend's hotel room. Total scumbag. After that was when I knew I was out of that shit. But before that, I started noticing how weird the recruitment aspect felt and how much they pushed it. They lie about the products and say you will save money because you get a discount. But every single product is like at least 50% more expensive than most name brand stuff. And when I saw that, I was like, how am I supposed to sell any of this? The funny thing about that is they don't want you to sell. They want you to buy a certain amount of product for yourself every month to prop up your upline. They say it will save you money, but you'll lose money not only because of the cost of the product, but because you'll have no idea what to do with the amount they expect you to buy. One of the guys there said he just gives the extra product away, and the uplines will encourage that as long as you're hitting your number. I realized quickly that the only way to make any money would be to use shady tactics to recruit people under me, so I can profit off of their losses. I also did some research and found out that all of their events and weekly meetings are bullshit, as well as their educational app services, because they felt like BS. They're all cash grabs. Once you hit a certain level in Amway, you start to earn a cut of the profits from the meetings, events, and app sales, and the more people you bring to meetings and events, the more you make. Luckily, I only spent a few $100s on Scamway, and leaving was as easy as saying that I didn't want to do Amway anymore. Story 9. My son-in-law talked me into selling It Works. I was hesitant, didn't quite need the money, but figured extra income couldn't hurt. Was a seller for 6 months. They kept telling me to add all of these women I have in common with people I'm already friends with, and to post about it 3 to 4 times a day on Facebook and Instagram. I literally made an Instagram for it. They said to message at least 30 people a day about, and twice a week there was a group video chat they kept insisting I join. I couldn't join due to me being at my normal job. All in all, I hated it. I'm awkward and a terrible salesperson, and I made nothing from it. Never made a sale. They kept saying, try and get your mum or aunts to support you. It was a waste of money and all. But made out with one new friend. Story 10. I fell victim to It Works. I knew something was seriously wrong with the company when they would take your money for their hot new product, and then you wouldn't receive anything for weeks. But they didn't hesitate to take the next payment for the auto shipment that you never receive in the first place. The straw that broke the camel's back was when they charged me 3 times in one day for the same product. And when I reached out to my upline about it, she said I would just have to call them myself. After waiting on hold almost 2 hours, the man on the line at customer support essentially told me that it was an issue with PayPal and not them, and there was nothing he could do. Needless to say, I then called PayPal and reported them, and PayPal essentially blocked them from making any future transactions. I eventually got my money back after a few days, but the whole thing was very inconvenient and definitely left a bad impression of MLM. Story 11. I worked at the head office of a large MLM, and one of the OGs, Mary Kay. You have to live, breathe, and shit pink. Honestly, I once got sent home from the office because I had made a cardinal mistake. I had worn a pantsuit to the office. As a woman, we were expected to wear a skirt or dress daily. I was new and didn't really think they'd get upset over a pantsuit, all things considered. I was wrong. I know this is a different perspective, but hear me out. I didn't really know what Mary Kay was initially. All I remember is seeing the old school pink eyeshadow cubes in my mum's makeup drawer. I started to discover that things were all a bit strange and predatory. We would run campaigns inside of universities and colleges because the older generations all knew what was up. The company was marketing toward these younger girls specifically because they didn't know the shtick, and hinging on the fact that we would somehow be able to convince them of making easy money. I heard a lot of horror stories the longer I worked there, specifically from people who were angrily demanding answers from directors at the annual seminar held in Toronto for Canadian Mary Kay consultants. People losing thousands of dollars. It all felt so criminal to have been a part of. Story 12. A good friend joined World Financial Group, also known as WFO. I told her off the bat to avoid it. Major MLM scheme that preyed on family and friends. She, of course, ignored my advice and went all gung-ho. I told her that if she wanted to keep the friendship, please don't ever ask me to join. And luckily, she didn't. She attended a whole bunch of seminars and even went on a trip to the US. A very expensive trip for her and her guy. Paid out of pocket. I think she even had to pay for training in some of the seminars too. Then one day she just stopped talking about it. I assume she grew tired of it and gave up on it. MLM scams encourage asking friends and family members to participate. I fear not to bring it up again, as I'm just glad she stopped going to those meetings. Story 13. Used to sell unique. It was easy to get out. I wasn't making any money. I couldn't be faked to sell my product, and I learned about quality makeup and unique ain't it lol. You can buy ColourPop for literally 1/4 of the price and 10 times the pigment and blendability. Story 14. I never joined an MLM, but years ago I went with a friend to a meeting for World Ventures. His friend had told him he was having a get-together with a few friends to talk about a business idea he had. We walk into this packed apartment and immediately are ushered to the couch where another friend and a neighbor are also sitting, surrounded by a bunch of strangers. They start playing a video about WV, and a couple of people come up to talk about all the money they're making with it. At various points, the strangers in the place all clap and cheer, and I'm looking around at them thinking, what the fuck is going on here? It felt surreal and bizarre, rehearsed and fake. We weren't told we were going to be shown an entire presentation, so that was off-putting. I felt tricked, being invited. The presentation ended, and all the WV strangers left immediately. The neighbor politely declined joining and left. The other friend asked what made this not a pyramid scheme, and the host proceeded to draw out a pyramid explaining how the business model worked, the whole time insisting it wasn't a pyramid scheme. The friend also politely declined. Me, having seen the red flags in 1, being lied to about what we were doing. 2, the fake clapping and ludicrous claims during the presentation. 3, the way you needed to pay up front to join. And 4, the fucking pyramid drawing also declined. The idiot friend I went with happily wrote a check to join like the goddamn moron he is. He really thought he'd be able to get tons of friends and family to join. In the end, no one wanted to. because everyone could see from a mile away it was a scam. We've since stopped talking, so I don't know if he's still in it or not. But I did end up getting to tag along on a trip to Dubai with him, because he needed to go on trips to help his sales pitch. It was a fun trip, but the WV group activities were just as annoying and cult-like as the meetings. Story 15. I had just started college right out of high school. Was going to an art school, I know, bad idea, and was looking for a job to do between classes. A classmate of mine mentioned Cutco, so I naively went in for an interview. Few points to know. I had no previous job experience at all. The office was in the next town over, and I didn't have a driver's license at the time, let alone a car. My freaking mom drove me to the interview. Got the job anyway. So I get the Cutco bag of stuff to show off, and was sent on my way to harass my relatives. I thought that I was only doing example shows to them, practicing for the real deal. My dad and stepmom even bought some knives. No idea what happened to them though. Last I saw, they used a different set. Once I run out to people to bother, I start running into problems. Problem 1 was I didn't sell anything other than that one set. Problem 2 was I hadn't gotten any other people to talk to. The pyramid part of my pyramid scheme wasn't working real well. Problem 3 was the straw that broke the camel's back apparently. I couldn't get to the weekly meetings, because my mum refused to drive me across town every week. She had a long commute. In the end, I got a call from my manager telling me he was basically letting me go, and I needed to turn in my swag bag. I told him I couldn't get to him, so he had to come to me. Later that day he rolled up, gave him the bag, and that was it. Don't think I ever got my cut from the knives I did sell either. The real kicker was, I didn't even realize it was a MLM until almost a decade later, browsing this very sub. Story 16. When my husband died, abusive prick, so don't feel bad for me. He left me with a fuck ton of debt. Okay, you can feel bad for me now, lol. Not long after he died, I had gone to a Tupperware party for a friend and made some positive comment about one of the products, and that put me on the presenter's radar. This presenter happened to be one of those top-tier ladies that ignored their family to make it big. She is the regional person, whatever the title is. I was broke, paying off so much stuff while waiting for the life insurance to come through. You'd be surprised at the amount of companies that don't give a shit that you've lost a spouse. They just want their money. So Tupperware was spun as a way to earn extra money. She even gave me the starter kit without having to pay up front. Problem was, I worked full-time, and it was near impossible to book parties. I did my first presentation at my house and booked no parties. I reached out to all my friends and family and booked no parties. The pressure from this woman was immense. She'd call me while I was at my day job. She'd try to convince me to quit my day job to focus on Tupperware. She knew I was broke, but she was adamant that if I quit my job, I'd make it big. And before I know it, I'd have a Tupperware card just like her. She never listened to me. Even when I said to her, how do you expect me to pay my bills if I quit my job and start up Tupperware? She had a response for everything. Nothing was based in logic, and every time she called me, which was weekly, I was filled with dread. I started to ghost her. It took months for me to work up the courage to tell her I didn't want to do it anymore. It took weeks for her to accept me don't want to do it anymore. She dragged it on and on and on. Finally, she sent me a curt leave your kit at the front door message, which I did. She tried a couple of years down the track to recruit me again. I ignored her calls. All I wanted to extra income to help me. I also wanted to add to my friend group. All I got was stress, anxiety, and frustration. Story 17. I was a Mary Kay girl for a short period of time. 1. They kept claiming that if you sold so much, you'd get a free car with no strings attached. Long story short, I googled it, and there were, indeed, attached strings. 2. They worshipped Mary Kay Ash, aka the founder of Mary Kay. It's kind of like how the FLDS worships Warren Jeffs. It was very unsettling and very cult-like. 3. All the makeovers. You'd do a before and after photo of the subject. They wouldn't let you smile in the before photo, but would make you in the after photo. Therefore, you'd automatically look 100x better in the after photo, regardless of how shitty the makeup was. 4. My regional director bought a bunch of stuff under my name without telling me. She didn't use my credit cards or anything. But when I initially got the email receipt for it, I freaked out because I thought my numbers were stolen. She never told me that it was her, but I found out by searching the address on the order. I later found out that it had to do with some bonus the upline would get if their downlines bought enough inventory in a certain period of time. This wasn't a huge deal, but it definitely weirded me out. 5. A lot of the girls who were at my level were from my school. A few of them really didn't like me growing up. The moment I walked in that door, they all pretended to love me, ... And yeah, that's all I can think of. Story 18. Mine was the OG MLM, Amway. More specifically, Quickstar, and even more specifically, the Brit Worldwide division. I was young, early 20s, and dealing with the life you're never told about in school. The one where you don't get a degree and your dream job out of college, but instead wash out of college. Due to apathy and crippling combo of social anxiety and bipolar disorder, knowing a $9 per hour job was not the life I wanted. My similarly aged co-worker, who was always positive and upbeat and a genuinely decent guy, selling me on owning my own business and retiring at 30 was an easy buy-in from me. $75 later, I was my own business owner. My direct mentor was an actual medical doctor who also was in on this. Shit, if a licensed psychiatrist is a believer, so was I. The only problem was, unbeknownst to me at the time, everybody else had heard of Amway and knew their bullshit, except me apparently. I teetered around with it for a while, with no success, but thought it might work. The people above me, though, pushed aggressively this whole dream building idea. Buy these tapes and listen to and from work instead of listening to music. You know how you're going to dinner tomorrow night. Tell your friends and servers about the business. Oh, and buy duplicate tapes to share. To be clear, the tapes aren't required. But the only successful people in Brit Worldwide have all been fully in on these tapes. You went to the bar on Saturday night? Why didn't you try to network and build your business? You could have been dream building instead of having fun. While I hated the idea of buying this random dude's motivational speeches on tape, and dream building seemed super dumb to me, I didn't fully leave. When my sponsor suggested a business trip to Nashville for a conference, I figured, I'm only half in, but it's a cool weekend trip and I can bring my girlfriend along. So we took the trip, and that's where it turned. Friday night was intro speeches. The keynote speakers were treated as heroes and almost worshipped. Like 5-minute standing ovations, and people literally swarming them. The next day, more of the same. All had the same groupthink. No one was presenting different ways to succeed. Nope, it was only one way. By emulating these guys word for word and spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars buying their shitty motivational tapes. You even had to buy access to their website for the best tips. It was at that point I was done with it. My girlfriend and I bailed late Saturday to tour the city. Sunday morning went to poke my head in the morning speaker session, and it was a full-on evangelical church service. That was it for me. I'm at anti-religion, as I am a person of faith. I am a Christian, just not evangelical. I also have attended weddings and funerals and ceremonies for friends who are Catholic, atheist, evangelical, Hindu, and others. So I'm not offended by the idea of another ceremony. But when you feel things are a cult, and it all is leading you to think that this is a cult, buying in, being forced to purchase more, worshipping random dudes, and you end up at a conference session that is a worship service, but not actually advertised that way, well, fuck, what else could it be than a cult? So I stopped going once I got home, stopped answering calls, made excuses with my co-worker about other obligations, etc., and just didn't return. Then got a notice about 2 years ago that I got to claim a small part of a class action lawsuit against them. Got like $20 back. So yeah, fuck them. Story 19. My wife wanted to do Nuskin for about half a year. The thing is, we already have an online sales business with a few thousand regular clients. So doing Nuskin just added one more product onto our product list, which was already pretty extensive. The problem, as I knew it would be, was that you don't make any real commission money unless you get people below you. No biggie. My wife just fake signed up family members and did all her sales in their name so her name could collect the higher commission. But even after going to all that hassle, multiple emails, credit cards, shipping addresses, PO boxes, etc., the commission was still only something like 15 to 17%. And our typical profit margin on cosmetic products is more like 40%. Some stuff, like the Body Shop shampoo, we can sell for over 100% markup. She figured that the free vacations and other perks for winning sales competitions would make up for it, and she ended up in position to win a 5-day trip to South Africa. But when we researched what all the trip entailed, it actually seemed like it was going to suck balls. Especially when we had a 1-year-old at the time, so she just cancelled all her accounts, sold off the remaining product, and that was that. Bottom line is that if you had the ability to make real money doing online sales for an MLM, you'd most likely make twice as much money for half as much work actually just working for yourself. Story 20 was on Bumble and this hot chick, who, to be honest, either it was a bot or a catfish. Anyway, she asked me out for coffee to talk business. I was surprised because women and first moves. It wasn't even a date. It was a CN, and they pay almost $600 to get in. I told her to pay for it, since she was bragging how easy she makes money. Told her I could pay with the first money I'd make in the company. She kind of got me hooked, and I attended their repetitive speech events twice. Their people are fake as fuck. After many awkward attempts to get in almost everyone I knew, ruining relationships in doing so, I spent a month and 2 without a sale. I was pissed. After doing some research and realizing how impossible the marketing tactics are, no advertising, just tell a friend, relative, or anyone, I unfriended everyone, left their group and told them to delete every identification of me, ... I kept my $600 too, just time wasting, man. Fuck those guys, man. That is all for today. If you have enjoyed this video, do like and subscribe. I post once a week or more. You can also subscribe to my Patreon below to support me. Hope you have an absolutely amazing day, and I hope you will check out my other videos on screen.